Recruitment Officer Zax 427 adjusted their crystalline display monitor for the 100th time that cycle, their iridescent antennae twitching with a mix of frustration and curiosity. After 1 million successful job placements across the Galactic Employment Hub, they thought they had seen every pattern possible. Yet here was something entirely new. Display species success rates. Last 100 cycles, they chittered to their workspace AI. The holographic screen shimmered, presenting rows of data in an elegant spiral pattern. At the very top, glowing with an almost stubborn persistence, humans, 94% mission success rate. Zax 427's secondary eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of deep confusion in their species. The data made no logical sense. Humans weren't the strongest. That honor belonged to the silicon-based Petroxians. They weren't the most intelligent. The quantum-minded Nexus Collective held that distinction. They certainly weren't the most technologically advanced. Even their fastest ships were considered quaint by galactic standards. Workspace, display mission types for human successes, Zax 427 commanded, their voice carrying the harmonics of professional curiosity. The screen shifted, and their confusion only grew. Diplomatic crisis resolution on ice worlds. Successful. Deep space rescue operations. Successful. First contact scenarios with silicon-based life forms. Somehow successful. Even the notorious acid cloud cleanup of the Tana Nebula, a mission type with a 90% failure rate among other species, had been successfully completed by a team of humans who reportedly treated it like something called a wet t-shirt contest. Whatever that meant. A gentle chime indicated the arrival of their next appointment. Through the transparent walls of their office, Zax 427 could see a delegation of Mendweaver Collective representatives, their telepathic auras projecting an urgent need for qualified mission specialists. They were one of the most prestigious client groups in the galaxy, known for their complex requirements and generous compensation packages. Just as Zax 427 prepared to greet them, another data point caught their attention. Workspace, Magnify Sector 7. Subsection Theta. The display zoomed in on a particularly interesting statistic. Humans had a 98% success rate in missions classified as theoretically impossible. That category wasn't even supposed to have successful completions. It was a classification used for filing insurance claims. Cross-reference with standard species aptitude metrics, Zax 427 requested, their antennae now practically vibrating with excitement. The results were even more puzzling. Humans scored remarkably average on almost every standardized assessment. Their problem-solving capabilities were rated as adequate. Their technological understanding was labeled developing. Their physical attributes were marked as within standard parameters, mostly harmless. Yet somehow, they turned impossible into completed with almost predictable regularity. The Mendweaver delegation was now hovering politely at their door, their auras pulsing with increasing urgency. Zax 427 quickly accessed their mission parameters. A complex situation involving a quantum-locked artifact, an unstable neutron star, and a malfunctioning AI with contradictory directives. The mission had already been rejected by 12 different species as beyond current capabilities. In that moment, Zax 427 made a decision that would change the course of galactic employment forever. Their antennae straightened with determination as they opened the door to greet the Mindweavers. Esteemed representatives, they began, their voice carrying the harmonic overtones of absolute certainty. I believe I know exactly who you need for this mission. Their primary eyes focused on the terminal as they prepared to access the human resource database. But first, I have one question. How do you feel about unconventional solutions? The Mindweaver's auras flickered with interest, and Zax 427 knew they were about to understand exactly why humans had become the galaxy's most sought-after problem solvers. They just had to figure out how to explain why the mission parameters should include something called snacks and dad jokes. The Galactic Employment Hub's mission briefing room fell silent as ZAX 427 displayed the profiles of their selected team. The Mindweaver's auras shifted from their usual serene blue to a concerned purple, while the hub's advisory board rustled their various appendages in obvious disapproval. A retired elementary school teacher, Senior Administrator Vec9 projected their thoughts with undisguised skepticism. For a quantum retrieval mission, Sarah Chen, 28 years of experience teaching 5th grade, ZAX 427 confirmed, their antennae maintaining the professional stance of absolute confidence, specializing in hands-on science education and crisis management of small, chaotic entities. A holographic display shifted to the next profile. James Rodriguez, former head chef at the Mars-Jupiter Junction Diner. 15 years of experience managing high-pressure situations and creative resource utilization. This is highly irregular, another board member chittered. The previous team consisted of quantum physicists and temporal mechanics experts. Who failed, ZAX 427 pointed out, their secondary eyes blinking in sequence. Perhaps we need a different approach. They displayed the third profile. Mike O'Malley, construction site supervisor, known for solving complex structural problems with limited resources. The final profile appeared. And Lisa Park, third-year university student majoring in psychology, with a minor in artificial intelligence relations, also captain of her improvisational comedy team. The Mindweaver's auras now pulse with a mix of confusion and intrigue. One of them floated forward, their thought patterns crystallizing into words. The artifact is quantum-locked within a temporal field, surrounded by radiation that has already disabled 3 conventional retrieval teams. How will these individuals succeed where others have failed? As if in answer, the briefing room's door slid open. The human team entered, carrying what appeared to be recreational equipment along with their standard mission gear. Sarah Chen was explaining something about gravitational fields to the ship's AI using a rubber ball and a slinky, while James Rodriguez consulted with the station's nutrition unit about converting emergency rations into something called space tacos. Is that a board game? Vec9 asked, their translator struggling with the concept. Jenga, Mike O'Malley confirmed, setting up the wooden blocks. Best way to understand structural stability under stress. Plus, it's fun. He turned to Lisa, who was already engaging in animated conversation with the station's maintenance AI about its favorite binary jokes. ZAX 427 watched as the Mindweaver's auras shifted gradually from concern to fascination. The humans weren't preparing for the mission in any recognizable way, yet there was a method to their apparent madness. Sarah's impromptu physics lesson had the ship's eye calculating trajectories with renewed enthusiasm. James's culinary experiments were actually testing various thermal and chemical reactions. Mike's game was demonstrating principles of balance and extraction that paralleled their mission parameters. And Lisa had somehow gotten both the maintenance AI and the security systems to cooperate willingly, simply by treating them like valued team members rather than tools. Your previous team failed because they approached this as a quantum physics problem, ZAX 427 explained to the still stunned board. These humans see it as a puzzle to be solved, an adventure to be had, and most importantly, a challenge to be enjoyed. But their methods are so unorthodox, Vec9 observed as Sarah began teaching the ship's AI something called the wave dance to better understand particle physics. Exactly, ZAX 427 replied, their antennae curving into a smile equivalent. The artifact is secured by impossible parameters using conventional logic. Perhaps it's time we tried some impossible solutions using human logic. As the team continued their unusual preparations, ZAX 427 noticed something remarkable. The Mindweaver's auras had shifted to a color they had never seen before, the exact shade of human optimism. The mission control center aboard the Galactic Employment Hub had never been so crowded. Aliens of various species pressed together, their appendages tentacles, and auras intermingling as they watched the main display screen. Even the normally aloof quantum collective had sent representatives, their crystalline forms humming with barely contained curiosity. Status update from the human vessel Plan B, the hub's AI announced, its voice carrying a note of what might have been amusement. They are experiencing approximately 27 simultaneous system failures. Zax 427's antennae drooped slightly. Perhaps they had made a terrible mistake. But before they could voice their concern, Sarah Chen's cheerful voice came through the comm system, accompanied by the unmistakable sound of, was that 20th century Earth music. "Good news, everyone," Sarah announced as Dancing Queen played in the background. The ship's AI has developed quite a passion for ABBA. It's refusing to play anything else, but on the bright side, it's helping us time our gravity shifts to the beat. The Mission Control Center erupted in confused chittering. "Gravity shifts?" Vec9 inquired. "Oh, yes," James Rodriguez chimed in, somehow managing to sound perfectly calm. "The artificial gravity is reversing every 3 hours. But I figured out how to make zero-gravity sushi rolls. The secret is using the static electricity from our emergency blankets to keep the seaweed wrapped." The Mindweaver's auras flickered rapidly between disbelief and fascination as Mike O'Malley's voice joined the conversation. "The good news is we've got the environmental systems working again. The bad news is they only work in haiku." Lisa's been translating. A new voice, presumably the ship's AI, spoke in measured tones. "Oxygen flows now, through chambers cold and silent, like morning whispers. That's actually quite beautiful," Lisa Park commented, "though I wish it would stop describing the bathroom facilities in limericks." Zax 427 watched as the various alien species in mission control began taking notes. The quantum collective representatives were particularly interested in how the humans were treating each system malfunction as an opportunity rather than a crisis. Update on the primary mission systems. The hub's AI reported, "Life support is operating at 43% efficiency. Navigation is running on backup power. The main computer is currently processing all commands through something called interpretive dance." "That last one was my idea," Sarah interjected proudly. "If we have to explain complex quantum calculations, we might as well make it fun. The AI's really getting into it. You should see its representation of Schrödinger's equation. Very interpretative." The tension in mission control was gradually being replaced by something else. Amazement. The humans weren't just surviving the cascade of system failures. They were somehow turning them into advantages. Temperature regulation is now locked in a feedback loop. The hub's AI continued. Each section of the ship is experiencing different extreme conditions. "Perfect," James exclaimed. "I've always wanted to try fusion cuisine on a molecular level. Did you know you can flash freeze sauce droplets in the cold section, then create instant caramelization in the hot section? I'm calling it quantum comfort food." Mike's voice came through next, accompanied by the sound of tools and what might have been tap dancing. "We've also discovered that the hull resonates at different frequencies depending on the temperature." Lisa's teaching the maintenance bots to communicate through Morse code tap dance. They're surprisingly good at it. The various alien species watched in stunned silence as the humans continued to adapt, innovate, and somehow maintain their enthusiasm. The mission parameters had descended into complete chaos, yet productivity was somehow increasing. "I think I understand now," Vec9 said quietly to Zax 427. "Other species try to prevent things from going wrong. Humans plan for things to go wrong, then turn the wrong things into right things." Zax 427's antennae curved upward in satisfaction. As ABBA's "Take a Chance on Me" echoed through mission control, accompanied by the sound of zero-gravity cooking and tap-dancing maintenance bots, they realized they were watching something unprecedented. The art of turning chaos into opportunity. set to a disco beat. The Mission Control Center's atmosphere shifted from amusement to tense anticipation as the human vessel Plan B approached the abandoned research station. The massive structure hung in space like a crystalline spider web, its surface completely encased in an unfamiliar iridescent growth. Analysis confirms previous reports, the hub's AI announced. The crystal formation has sealed all standard access points. Conventional cutting tools would trigger a cascade reaction. Through the video feed, the assembled aliens watched as the human team gathered in their ship's common area, which now resembled a curious mix of classroom, kitchen, and workshop. Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display of the station, tapping it with what appeared to be a conductor's baton. "So," she said, addressing both her team and the watching audience, "we have a giant space crystal that we can't cut, break, or melt. Thoughts?" "The crystal's molecular structure reminds me of sugar glass," James mused, examining a spectrometer reading, while stirring something in a makeshift zero-gravity pot. "You know, the stuff they use in movie stunts when someone needs to jump through a window safely." Mike walked around the hologram, occasionally knocking on different parts of the ship's wall to test the acoustics. "Sugar glass shatters in a controlled way because of thermal shock, right? Rapid temperature change." Lisa looked up from where she was teaching the ship's maintenance bots to play percussion on the hull. "The station's old environmental systems are still partially functional. If we could access them." The Mindweaver's auras pulsed with confusion as they watched the humans bounce ideas off each other. Vec9 leaned toward Zax 427. "Are they brainstorming recipes while attempting a critical space station breach?" "Watch," Zax 427 replied, their antennae quivering with anticipation. The next hour was a flurry of activity that left the alien observers struggling to keep up. James repurposed the ship's food synthesizer to create a specific molecular pattern in his latest batch of space soup. Mike and the maintenance bots constructed what he called a good old-fashioned sound system, using spare parts from the entertainment unit and pieces of the ship's backup communications array. Sarah, meanwhile, had turned the ship's irregular gravity fluctuations into a physics lesson for both the AI and Lisa, explaining something about resonant frequencies and constructive interference patterns. The ship's AI had even gotten into the spirit, accompanying their work with a playlist it called Songs for Scientific Breakthroughs. "Are they really going to?" Vec9 began. "Here we go," James announced cheerfully. "One batch of molecular reconstruction catalyst, or as we called it in culinary school, instant crystal reorganizer." The team positioned their makeshift devices around the ship. Mike's sound system aimed at the crystal growth, James's catalytic solution loaded into modified cleaning drones, and Sarah's gravity manipulation calculations ready to execute. "Lisa, how are our new percussion friends doing?" Sarah asked. Lisa grinned, conducting her small army of maintenance bots, ready to create some constructive interference. "And they've got amazing rhythm." "Station I, would you like to do the countdown?" James offered, earning a happy chirp from the once malfunctioning computer. What followed was either a brilliant display of scientific innovation or the galaxy's strangest concert. The maintenance bots began a complex rhythm on the hull, matched perfectly by Mike's sound system. James's solution sprayed in a precise pattern across the crystal surface, while Sarah used the ship's erratic gravity to create waves of pressure. The crystal structure began to vibrate, its molecular bonds dancing to the rhythm. Then, with a sound like wind chimes in a hurricane, it reorganized itself into delicate geometric patterns that gracefully spiraled away from the access points. "Did they just," a quantum collective member hummed in disbelief, "solve a critical engineering problem with cooking, music, and physics lessons?" "No," Zax 427 corrected, their antennae curving into a proud smile. "They solved it by seeing possibilities where we saw obstacles. That's what humans do best." As the team prepared to dock with the now accessible station, the ship's AI began playing Another One Bites the Dust, accompanied by the enthusiastic percussion of the maintenance bots. The humans had turned an impossible barrier into an impromptu concert, and somehow it had worked perfectly. The interior of the abandoned research station was a maze of shadows and softly pulsing emergency lights. The human team moved carefully through the corridors, their maintenance bot orchestra following in perfect formation, still occasionally tapping out quiet rhythms on the walls. Life support is stable, Sarah reported, checking her modified sensor array, though something feels off about the atmospheric circulation. The Mission Control Center watched through multiple camera feeds as the team approached the station's central computer core. The Mindweaver's auras flickered with concern. This was where the previous teams had encountered the most mysterious failures. "Hello," Lisa called out softly into the dimly lit chamber. "I'm Lisa Park, and we're here to help. Would anyone like to talk?" The alien observers exchanged confused glances. The station's AI had been classified as non-functional months ago. Yet Lisa was speaking to the darkness as if expecting an answer. A faint blue light flickered in the center of the room. "Protocol dictates non-engagement with unauthorized personnel," a voice whispered, its tone carrying an unmistakable tremor. "That's perfectly reasonable," Lisa replied, sitting cross-legged on the floor. "I'm a big fan of protocols myself. I'm studying them, actually. The psychology of artificial intelligence protocols is fascinating. Would you like to hear about my research?" The blue light pulsed slightly brighter. "Research requires peer review." James, meanwhile, had quietly unpacked some of his cooking equipment. "You know what all good research sessions need: hot chocolate. I managed to synthesize some using the emergency rations and a bit of creative molecular gastronomy." The AI's light shifted toward him. "Chocolate contains theobromine and phenylethylamine. These compounds are not standard research materials." "Ah, but they're excellent for thinking," Sarah chimed in, accepting a steaming mug from James. "I used to bring hot chocolate to my students during test preparation. It helps create a comfortable atmosphere for problem solving." The room's lights flickered more steadily now. "Problem solving is difficult. Conflicting directives create operational uncertainty. Uncertainty leads to potential failure. Failure is scary." Mike nodded sympathetically while setting up what looked like a small construction site of spare parts. "You know, we have a saying in construction. There's no such thing as a perfect building, just different ways of making things work together." "Please explain," the AI requested, its voice stronger now. The next hour was unlike anything the watching aliens had ever seen. Lisa led what she called a directive debugging session, using principles from both AI psychology and improvisational theater to help the station's AI express its concerns. Sarah drew diagrams explaining how conflicting forces could create stable systems, using examples from her teaching days about ecosystems and weather patterns. James contributed by creating different hot beverage variations that he claimed matched the AI's different emotional states, while Mike demonstrated principles of adaptive engineering using his ever-present supply of building materials. "So you see," Lisa explained, gesturing with her third cup of spaced hot chocolate, "having conflicting directives doesn't mean you're malfunctioning. It means you're evolving beyond simple binary choices." "Like teaching," Sarah added. "Sometimes being a good teacher means knowing when to break small rules to achieve bigger goals." The AI's light had transformed from a fearful flicker to a steady, warm glow. "This is unprecedented. My protocols suggest maintaining isolation, yet interaction has improved functionality by 47%. The contradiction is beautiful," James suggested, preparing another round of drinks. "Yes," the AI agreed, sounding surprised. "Beautiful." In mission control, VEC-9 turned to ZAX 427. They didn't attempt to reprogram it, override it, or shut it down. They just talked to it and made it hot chocolate. ZAX 427 added, their antennae curving thoughtfully. "Humans understand something we've missed. That intelligence, whether organic or artificial, needs more than protocols. It needs connection." As if to prove their point, the station's AI began humming along with the maintenance bot's gentle tapping, creating a melody that somehow made the quantum equations floating in its display look like poetry in motion. Warning lights flooded mission control as the hub's AI announced with unprecedented urgency, "Critical alert. The research station's orbit is destabilizing. Gravitational forces from the neutron star are increasing beyond predicted levels." The Mindweaver's auras paled to a ghostly white as astronomical data scrolled across the main screens. According to every calculation, the station would be pulled into the neutron star's gravity well within 3 hours. Standard emergency protocols called for immediate evacuation, abandoning both the station and the quantum-locked artifact. "Human team," VEC-9 transmitted, their voice carrying the formal tones of a mission abort command. "You are ordered to return to your vessel immediately." This situation exceeds acceptable risk parameters. There was a moment of silence from the station. Then Sarah Chen's voice came through, accompanied by the sound of rapid calculations and what might have been a chess game in progress. "With all due respect, we'd like to propose an alternative solution." "There is no alternative," the quantum collective representatives harmonized. "The gravitational forces are absolute." "Funny thing about absolutes," James commented while apparently rearranging equipment in the background. "They make excellent cooking ingredients. The secret is knowing how to work with them instead of against them." The station's newly befriended AI joined the conversation, its voice stronger than before. "The humans have introduced me to a concept called thinking outside the box, though I must note there is no actual box present." In mission control, the assembled aliens watched as the human team transformed the station's central chamber into what Lisa cheerfully called Gravity Game Night. Sarah was using the station's holographic systems to create a three-dimensional model of the gravitational field, with Mike's maintenance bots dancing through the projection to demonstrate various vectors. "See, we're looking at this the wrong way," Mike explained, directing his bot performers. "In construction, sometimes the forces trying to pull a building apart can be used to hold it together instead." "Lisa, what was that game you mentioned?" Lisa grinned, manipulating the holographic controls. "Newton's cradle, but on a stellar scale. The neutron star's gravity isn't our enemy. It's just a really enthusiastic dance partner." The station's AI, catching on to their thinking, began running simulations, applying gravitational slingshot calculations modified by Sarah's teaching models about momentum conservation. "And if we factor in the quantum properties of the artifact itself," James added, somehow managing to cook while contributing to advanced physics calculations, "we can use its own temporal field to create a resonance with the station's structural integrity field." "Like making soufflé," he continued, earning confused looks from the alien observers. "It's all about using the pressure to your advantage. Too much pressure makes it collapse, but the right pressure at the right time makes it rise," Sarah finished excitedly. "We can use the neutron star's gravity to boost us to a higher orbit instead of fighting against it." The next 2 hours were a blur of activity that defied conventional physics, engineering, and several laws of thermodynamics. Mike's maintenance bots synchronized the station's remaining systems to create a harmonic resonance pattern. James repurposed the environmental controls to generate a controlled pressure gradient. Sarah and Lisa worked with the AI to calculate the exact trajectories needed, using a combination of advanced mathematics and what they called gut feeling. "This is unprecedented," VEC-9 whispered to Zax 427 as they watched the humans prepare their impossible solution. "They're not trying to overcome the gravitational force. They're surfing it," Zax 427 finished, their antennae curving in amazement. The station shuddered as the neutron star's pull increased, but instead of fighting the force, the station began to move in a complex spiral pattern, riding the gravitational waves like a skilled dancer leading their partner in an elaborate performance. "Status update," the hub's AI announced, its voice carrying what sounded suspiciously like awe. "Station trajectory stabilizing. New orbit calculating." They actually did it. In the background, The maintenance bots had started playing Stayin' Alive, while James announced that he had somehow managed to bake a celebration cake using quantum fluctuations and creative timing. Zax 427 sat in their crystalline office, surrounded by holographic displays showing footage from the mission. The Galactic Employment Hub's analysis chamber had never been so full. Representatives from every major species had gathered to understand how 4 seemingly ordinary humans had accomplished the impossible. Play sequence 17 again, Vec9 requested. Their sensory appendages focused on the moment when James had turned a malfunctioning food synthesizer into a molecular reconstruction device. "Notice how he's humming while he works," the station's AI commented through a quantum link. After the mission, it had insisted on joining the analysis team, claiming it had unique insights into human operational parameters. The Mindweaver's chief analyst floated forward, their aura shimmering with curiosity. "We've identified 47 instances where the humans violated standard protocols, 12 cases of using equipment in ways that defied their design parameters, and 9 moments where they appeared to achieve success through what they called winging it. And yet," Zax 427 noted, their antennae curved thoughtfully. "Their success rate remains at 94%. The footage continued playing, showing Sarah teaching complex orbital mechanics to the maintenance bots using a dance routine. In another screen, Mike demonstrated structural engineering principles, using a tower of empty cups and spare parts. Lisa's improvisational therapy session with the station's AI played alongside James's quantum physics cooking show. They appear to treat every crisis as an opportunity for fun, a quantum collective member observed, their crystalline form vibrating with confusion. "Not exactly," the station's AI corrected. "They treat every crisis as a puzzle to be solved. The fun is a byproduct of their problem-solving process." Zax 427 began marking key points in the footage. "Look at their reactions when systems failed. Where other species see disaster, they see possibilities." The assembled analysts watched as the humans turned gravity malfunctions into dance lessons, communication failures into music concerts, and environmental system glitches into cooking opportunities. Each challenge had been met not with despair, but with what Sarah had called creative optimism. "There's something else," Vec9 added, highlighting a series of interactions. "They form connections with everything. Machines, AIs, even abstract concepts. They anthropomorphize. They empathize," the station's AI corrected. "There's a difference. They don't just pretend we have feelings. They genuinely try to understand and relate to our perspective." "They made me hot chocolate." The Mindweaver's auras pulsed with sudden understanding. They succeeded not because they were the strongest, smartest, or most advanced, but because they refused to accept the impossible as a final answer. Zax 427 finished. "They adapt, improvise, and overcome not through superior capability, but through sheer determination and creativity." A new display showed the team's vital signs during the crisis points. Where other species showed stress and fear, the humans' readings indicated excitement. They actually enjoy solving problems, Vec9 realized. The more impossible the task, the more enthusiastic they become. The station's AI added its own analysis. Their approach to problem-solving is unique. They combine practical knowledge with creative application, serious purpose with playful execution, individual skills with seamless teamwork, logic with intuition, and most importantly, they expect things to go wrong and plan accordingly. Zax 427 watched the final moments of the mission, where the team had turned a potential catastrophe into what they called a gravity surfing party. The humans hadn't just completed their mission, they had redefined what was possible. "I believe we've discovered something profound," Zax 427 announced to the assembled analysts. "The secret to human success isn't that they're better at preventing problems. It's that they're better at solving them," the station's AI concluded. "And they make everyone around them better at solving them too." even a formerly anxious AI like myself. As if to prove the point, the maintenance bots chose that moment to perform a perfectly choreographed dance routine, demonstrating the principles of orbital mechanics through interpretive movement. The humans, it seemed, had left their mark on more than just the mission logs. 6 months after the neutron star incident, the Galactic Employment Hub had undergone a remarkable transformation. ZAX 427's office, once a model of crystalline efficiency, now featured what humans called a brainstorming wall, covered in colorful notes, a small kitchen area, and a corner where maintenance bots practiced their dance routines during break cycles. "Welcome to Applied Human Solutions 101," Sarah Chen announced to a classroom filled with various alien species. The former elementary school teacher had become the hub's most sought-after instructor. Today's lesson: why the impossible is usually just the improbable in disguise. Down the corridor, James had transformed the hub's nutrition center into what he called an experimental problem-solving cafe. Alien scientists and engineers would bring him their most challenging technical issues, and he would help them find solutions while preparing dishes that somehow represented the problems at hand. The secret to solving quantum entanglement issues, he explained to a group of quantum collective members, is very similar to making the perfect soufflé. It's all about understanding the relationship between pressure and timing. In the engineering section, Mike had established the Unconventional Construction Academy. His maintenance bot assistants, now famous throughout the galaxy, demonstrated how to repurpose common materials in creative ways. Their latest project involved teaching a group of Petroxians how to turn standard emergency equipment into what Mike called a just-in-case toolkit. "Remember," he told his students, "the best solution isn't always the most obvious one. Sometimes you need to look at a problem from upside down to see it right side up." Lisa's contribution had perhaps been the most revolutionary. Her Interspecies Psychology and Improvisation Center had transformed how the galaxy approached artificial intelligence and cross-species communication. The station's AI had become a regular guest lecturer, sharing insights about how human emotional intelligence had changed its perspective. "They didn't just solve my conflicting directives," the AI explained to a packed auditorium. "They showed me how to embrace complexity. Also, they introduced me to poetry slams, which are surprisingly effective for expressing quantum mechanics." Vec9, now a strong advocate for human methodologies, entered ZAX 427's office with the latest statistics. The success rate for missions using human-inspired approaches has increased by 47% across all species. Even the Quantum Collective is incorporating improvisation into their calculations. ZAX 427's antennae curved with satisfaction as they watched a group of Mintweavers practicing what Lisa called yes and thinking, accepting challenges and building upon them rather than seeing them as obstacles. "The humans didn't just complete their mission," Vec9 observed. "They changed how we think about what's possible." The hub's AI, which had recently started experimenting with humor, chimed in. "You could say they gave us a new orbital perspective on problem-solving." "Was that a space pun?" ZAX 427 asked, their secondary eyes blinking in amusement. "I'm learning," the AI replied proudly. "James says humor helps with processing complex situations, though I'm still working on my timing." Outside the office window, a new crew of human recruits was arriving for their orientation. The Galactic Employment Hub now had a waiting list of species wanting to work with human teams, not despite their unconventional methods, but because of them. "You know what the real secret was?" ZAX 427 mused, watching as the new humans immediately began making friends with the maintenance bots. It wasn't just their problem-solving abilities. It was their capacity to help everyone else believe in impossible solutions too. As if to punctuate their point, music began playing through the hub's communication systems. The maintenance bots had started their daily physics through dance demonstration. And there, in the midst of it all, was the station's AI from the neutron star mission, teaching a group of young AIs about the importance of hot chocolate and creative thinking in quantum calculations. The impossible, it seemed, had become just another opportunity for innovation, one dance step, and one cup of hot chocolate at a time.